So, let's start this way. Good afternoon. In the backwoods of the Appalachian Mountains, you don't see too many people hang gliding. But old Zeke decided to save up and get a hang glider. He goes to the highest mountain, and after struggling to the top, he gets ready to take flight. He takes off running and reaches the edge. Into the wind he goes. Now, meanwhile, Ma and Pa Hicks are sitting on the porch swing talking about the good old days when Ma spots the biggest bird she had ever seen. "Look at the size of that bird, Pa," she exclaims. Pa raises up. "Get my gun, Ma." She runs into the house, brings out his pump shotgun. He takes careful aim. Bang! 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 The monster-sized bird continues to sail silently over the treetops. "I think you missed him, Pa," she says. "Yeah," he replies, "but at least he let go of old Zeke." Do you get it? It's okay to laugh. That must have been a surprise to old Zeke to end his glider flight like that. But you have to admire him for that one day at least. He had been flying high. Old Zeke was the exact opposite of a certain wild duck I heard about. This duck could fly high and far, traveling hundreds of miles in glorious freedom above the landscape. But one day he landed in a barnyard. There, life was less exciting, but easier. He didn't have to scramble for food, and when the weather was bad, he could take shelter in the barn. The duck began to eat and live with the lame ducks, and gradually he forgot how to fly. He became fat and lazy. In the spring and fall, however, as the wild ducks flew overhead, something stirred inside this wild duck, but he could no longer rise to join them. A poem about this duck ends with these lines. "He's a pretty good duck for the shape he's in, but he isn't the duck that he might have been. He was no longer flying high." John Greenleaf Whittier wrote a pamphlet titled Maud Muller, in which he wrote these words. "Of all sad words of tongue or pen, the saddest are these. It might have been." Jesus' disciples, James and John, one day asked him for a favor. They asked him to allow them to sit on his right and his left hand in glory. In other words, they wanted the best seats in the house, places of honor and prestige. But they wanted to be appointed to these choice places, not because they had earned them or deserved them, but because they had influence with the boss's son. Does that sound familiar? Jesus said to James and John, "You don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink from the cup that I drink, or to be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized?" In other words, he was asking, are you willing to give your all, as I am giving my all, to see my kingdom established? And to their credit, James and John answered, "We are able." And Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink, you will drink, and the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right or my left hand is not mine to grant." Now, it's easy for us to criticize James and John for their ambition. Their peers, the other 10 disciples, certainly made their feelings well known about their request. But notice that Jesus does not criticize them. It doesn't seem to bother Jesus at all that they were ambitious, that they wanted to fly a little higher than the rest. Jesus knew that ambition can be a good thing. Jesus simply needed to refine their ambition. Now, before we go any further, we do need to clarify one thing. Ambition can be destructive. Many people are driven by ambition that ends up destroying them. Author and motivational guru Tony Robbins tells the tragic story of a man which loved by millions of people all over the world. His name was Robin Williams. Remember him? Robin Williams was one of the most admired entertainers of our time. Robbins points out that Robin Williams was a master achiever. Robin Williams started out with nothing, writes Tony, but then he decides that he wants to star in his own TV show, and he does it. Then he decides that he wants a beautiful family, and he creates it. Then he decides that he wants more money than he can spend in a lifetime, and he makes it. He makes it happen. Then he decides to become a movie star, and he does it. Then he decides that he wants to win an Oscar, but not for being funny, and he does that too. He was a man who had it all, who achieved everything he'd ever dreamed of achieving. and then he hanged himself. He hanged himself in his own home, leaving behind hundreds of millions of people who love him to this day. Even more devastating, he left his wife and children traumatized and brokenhearted. We do not know what demons drove Robin Williams, but they drove him to his death. It's sad. It's more than simple ambition that drove Robin Williams, I'm certain, but it is also true that ambition can make us or it can break us. A man named James Dodson, in a book titled Final Rounds, tells about the final months of his father's life. They were both avid golfers, and when his father was diagnosed with a terminal illness, James took his dad to Scotland so they could play golf together on some of the world's most celebrated courses. At one point, James's dad asked him about his marriage and family. James's answer was evasive. He was so consumed by his work that there was little time left over for anything else. There were the words of a dying father to his son. "I wish I could slow you both down," he said. The danger of great ambition is that you'll work so hard you may someday wake up and find that the things you really wanted were the things you had all along. Many have made that discovery too late in their lives. The things they really wanted were the things they had all along. Ambition can make you or break you. Misplaced ambition can cost you your family, your health, even your faith in God. Jesus knew that, but he also knew that ambition can be a gift from God. If we let God use our ambition, channel it in positive ways, it can make our world a better place. Think what an impoverished world this would be without those people who choose to fly higher than the most of us could care to fly. Physicist Stephen Hawking died last year at age 76. Hawking was born on January the 8th, 1942, exactly 300 years to the day after the death of Galileo. What an amazing life he lived. He was one of the world's best known and most productive scientists. It was he who pioneered the science of black holes. He also brought science to a mass audience with his best-selling book, A Brief History of Time. He accomplished more than most any scientist of his time. The amazing thing is he did it while suffering from ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease, a rare, wasting disease of the nervous system and muscles. The disease gradually paralyzed Hawking over the decades. He was confined to an electric wheelchair for much of his adult life. This disease eventually robbed him of his speech. He was forced to communicate through a speech-generating device. He initially operated this device through the use of a handheld switch. Eventually, he operated the device by using a single cheek muscle. As someone has noted, because Hawking could not write his intricate equations, it was necessary for him to remember them as they flashed into his mind. Someone has noted that this is comparable to Mozart's having composed an entire symphony in his head. Diagnosed at age 21, Hawking was one of the world's longest survivors of ALS. He was an astounding man. What is it that drove him? We cannot know, but we do know this. The world would be much poorer without Stephen Hawking's drive and ambition. Jesus knew that drive and ambition are God-given traits bestowed upon human beings for the betterment of humankind. Without persons who are motivated to extend themselves beyond the ordinary person, there would be no great accomplishment in this world. Michael B. Curry, presiding bishop of the Episcopal Church, tells about an old Apple computer commercial from the 1990s. From the 1990s. That just makes me feel really old. That went viral on YouTube on the day in 2011 when Steve Jobs, founder of Apple, died. The tagline for the commercial was, "Think different," a phrase that is grammatically incorrect, which is part of the point. In the commercial, they showed a collage of photographs and film footage of people who have invented and inspired, created, and sacrificed to improve the world, to make a difference. They showed Bob Dylan, Amelia Earhart, Frank Lloyd Wright, Maria Callas, Muhammad Ali, Martin Luther King Jr., Jim Henson, Albert Einstein, Pablo Picasso, Mahatma Gandhi, and on and on and on. As the image rolls by, a voice reads the poem. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. Why is this important to us? It is because changing the world is what following Christ is all about. Obviously, James and John were ambitious for the wrong things. They wanted positions of power and prestige, whereas Jesus wanted them to be servants of the Word and the world. But at least he would not have to spend his time trying to motivate them. He knew that they had an inner drive that would cause them to seek to do great things. All he needed to do was point them in the right direction. If you're going to change the world, you have to have a superabundance of drive and ambition. Anthropologist Margaret Mead once made the well-known statement that we should never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. If you're going to set out to preach the gospel to the ends of the earth as Jesus called his disciples to do, you've got to be committed to flying higher than the most common contented duck is ever going to fly. Jesus said to James and John, "You don't know what you are asking. Are you able to drink from the cup that I drink, or to be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized?" In other words, are you willing to give your all as I am giving my all to see my kingdom established? To their credit, James and John said, "We can." And James and John did drink from the cup which Jesus drank. They did give their all for Christ and the kingdom. But first of all, they needed to understand the nature of true greatness. Notice what happens next. When the 10 heard about this, they became indignant with James and John. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many." Did you catch what he said? Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. It's fine, Jesus is saying, if you want to be great, but understand what true greatness is. True greatness is about serving others. True greatness is about the community. True greatness is about serving God. True greatness is about making your church the kind of church that reaches out to people who are lonely and forgotten. True greatness is about identifying with Christ. Are you ready to fly that high? Or are you content to strut around in the pen with the other ducks? There's a beautiful story about a British author, Graham Greene. Greene once waited 2.5 years for a 15-minute appointment with the Roman Catholic mystic Padre Pio, who resided in an Italian monastery. Now, Padre Pio was reputed to be a living saint and bore on his body the stigmata, or the wounds of Christ. On the day Greene was due to meet with this revered mystic, Greene first attended a mass where Padre Pio officiated. Their appointment was to begin immediately after the mass. However, when the mass was over, instead of keeping this much-awaited appointment, Greene left church, headed for the airport, and flew directly back to London. When asked why he broke the appointment he had waited on for 2.5 years, Greene said, "I was not ready for the manner in which that man could change my life." May I suggest that this is where many of us are, writes the Reverend Mark D. "I was not ready for the manner in which that man could change my life. We know we lack the love, the compassion, the humble caring that Christ embodied. We're thankful for the grace that covers this and all our sins, but we're not certain if we want to take our faith that far. We think to ourselves, I'm not ready for that manner in which that man could change my life. That man, of course, is Jesus. He wants to make something magnificent out of your life. If you let him, are you able to drink from that cup that I drink? Or to be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized? Are you willing to give your all as I am giving my all to see my kingdom established? I hope that your heart, as well as my heart, is courageous enough to answer. Lord, are we able? Our spirits are thine. Remold them. Make us like thee, divine. Thy guiding radiance above us shall be a beacon to God, to love and loyalty. Amen. Let's see if I can do this. Pray at DallasULC.com. Pray at DallasULC.com. That's for prayer requests. Here it comes. You can choose to remain anonymous. You can give us your name. We pray every day here at Dallas Universal Life Church. You can choose to just have us enter your intercessions into our daily prayers, or you can have us pray for you on Sunday and add you to our bulletin. We'd be glad to do that. It's part of our job as Christians is to pray for each other. Pray at DallasULC.com. Here it comes. There it is. Pray at DallasULC.com. Okay. A little note for everybody. I'm trying to give you fair notice on this so everybody knows. All Saints Day is Thursday, November the 1st. It's the day after Halloween. So if you're going to come to church the next day, you might want to take it a little easy on Halloween night. No, I'm kidding. Thursday, November 1st, 2018 is All Saints Day. We're going to have a candlelight service of remembrance. I ask that you come with those who have left your world and gone to the next on your mind and in your heart and in your soul. We will do a prayer service, a candlelight service for them and in memory of them. It's a rather moving ceremony. It's really kind of nice to come to. If you have not been to an All Saints Day service, it's a good one. It's a good one to come to. Okay? That's at 6 p.m. on Thursday, November the 1st. I know it's a strange time, and it's tough to get y'all out here during the week, but if you can make it, please do. Thursday at 6 p.m., November the 1st. Okay? Okay. Guess what? Today is the last day of the State Fair of Texas. And the last few hours are going on right this moment. They've actually, you're going to stay open later tonight. Because of all the rain that we had, it kind of hurt everybody out there. Nobody really got to go. So I think they normally close at 9, I believe. They're going to stay open until at least 11 tonight. So it's kind of an interesting thing that's never really happened. They don't really stay open that late. We do still have just discount tickets. I don't think we're going to need to hear, but let me go ahead and make the announcement anyway since I made the slide for it. You have discount tickets available here. See, last chance right there. See? And Patsy's telling you, take the tickets. Okay, they're $16.50. That was a discounted price. There are a lot of the places that are $16.50 also. Dart has them. But understand that we're all nonprofits, and that little bit of extra money that they give us to sell them at that, we bought them for $13 a piece. Okay, we're not getting a whole bunch of money off these. Right. So we make $3.50 a piece off of them. We sold 0. So, I mean, we tried. All right. Maybe next year. I sure hope so. I think the rain had a lot to do with it. I mean, a lot of people didn't go because of the rain. I mean, we had a monsoon here. I mean, just about. I mean, we are out officially. By the way, we are officially out of a drought. All of North Texas is no longer in drought.
Were we?
Oh, we were in extreme drought a month ago. Extreme drought. We are out of drought. I haven't heard that I haven't heard out of drought in probably 20 years in North Texas at the end of summer.
In the name of God, amen.
Amen. Okay. Yeah. Hi, Patty. How you doing? She smiles. You just look at her.
She's doing good.
Watch. She goes, take the picture. Okay. Yeah. Are you going to take the picture now? Take it. I can't smile.
Okay, here we go. Oh, there's her loveliness. She puts it on. Boom.
Did y'all know we had a podcast? Did y'all know that? We got a podcast. It's pretty cool, too. Yeah. I wish I looked that young.
You do?
No.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when they originally did that, they did the artwork on that. They sent it back, and my lips were about this color. And I had to explain to them that no, I don't wear lipstick, and they're natural. You know, they should be pink or a little lighter. We went through 3 revisions on that, trying to get them to, and that's the best they could get on it. So there they are. There they are. We do have a podcast. We have a podcast. It's different to listen to the podcast than it is to watch it on TV or even to be in the church here. It's just different. I mean, I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's in your head. You think differently, you hear things differently, you catch different things. I encourage you, if you have not, or if you have listened to the podcast before, listen to it. It's you're going to catch something different than you caught watching it or even being here. It's something. I mean, I encourage anybody, even if you came to service, to go and at least listen to the podcast or watch the YouTube video, because you're going to miss things. And sometimes when you go back and watch it or listen to it again, it makes things a little more cohesive. It makes everything kind of comes together, and you go, oh, that's what he meant. Okay? All right. You can hear our podcast on, and we'll get this right. Here we go. Anchor, Pocket Casts, Stitcher, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, Overcast, Castbox, Breaker, Google Podcasts, and of course the one and only Spotify. Spotify. All of those places we can hear our podcast. Or go to Google or anywhere else you do search and do a search for Your Path with Bishop Mark. Guarantee you'll find us. Your Path with Bishop Mark. Okay. Compliments, concerns, suggestions, complaints. Well, we got a place for that. Feedback at DallasULC.com. Feedback at DallasULC.com. This is geared a little more toward our people who watch on YouTube and listen on our podcast, who don't necessarily make it to the service. Don't get to really look me in the eye and tell me what they think. Here's your chance. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to keep? What do you want to get rid of? There it is.
Pastor Mark?
Yes.
There's a typo.
Is there still a typo on there?
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Feedback.
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 Yeah, I wish I could get the feedback. I was supposed to have caught that from last week, and I didn't do it. I apologize. Thank you for catching that. They're being very diligent there. It's not FEE, folks. It's not feedback. It's feedback. Feedback. Feedback.
Well, we could just keep it feedback now.
Yeah, feedback. No, I think we better make it feedback. Because I'm not giving any fees back, because I don't take any. So,
Oh, fees, yeah.
all this money we make.
Feedback. Yeah.
Feedback.
That's their feedback. That's the
Feedback at DallasULC.com. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you want to keep? What do you get rid of? Let me know. This is your service. This is your church. We want to be what you like. We want to keep what you want to keep. So let us know. Let us hear from you. Okay.